Hey guys, how y'all doing? Welcome back to Biblio Fitness. I hope everyone's had a great day. It's the start of the weekend, even though I'm only gonna train really, but fuck it, it's beautiful. So I just finished today Descent, the book about Adolf Hitler by Volker Ulrich. Um, it was pretty fucking crazy. I learned quite a bit about all of this. Like, I thought I knew about World War II, but I clearly did not. But that's why I bought the book, obviously. Like, I really wanted to get more information and learn more about the Holocaust and the whole dividing the rules shit. Like, it was a bureaucratic nightmare in Nazi Germany, just because there was just so many competing institutions that overlapped responsibilities. Therefore, there would be constant conflict, and that's where a lot of radicalism came from. Because all the squabbling with Hitler at the top, and one of his things is because this guy was like a Machiavellian, and he believed in this whole dividing, he promoted this sort of behavior because it'd keep all the potential opponents and potential rivals just constantly battling one another and leaving him at the top with the sole authority. And that's why he didn't even like to write shit down. You had the Hitler mandates and stuff, but that's what caused a lot of radicalization. People just trying to compete and trying to like, oh, this is the Führer's will, that this is what I'm going to do, and they just raise the bar. But it's really cool, the deep dive that he goes in on that. How as the war progresses, the anti-Jewish violence, the anti-Semitic violence increases as well. Especially when the Hungarian Jews come into the fold. But it all started in 1941. He doesn't really go too much into the euthanasia program. There are some holes that, but I do understand that this is a very complicated subject, and if I want to research any further, then I'm gonna have to get books that are just like specific on those events, I guess, or that focus more on those events. But it is what it is. Also, his physical deterioration was quite interesting. He makes the case that he was not a drug addict, and I thought this was like the universal consensus. But he does provide his thesis or his hypothesis that it wasn't Morel drugging him out, like Morel. But even though Morel was giving him pills that obviously caused severe digestive problems, like it was poisonous to human beings. I forgot the name of it, but these doctors that worked on taking some shit out of this guy's throat, Hitler's throat, looked at his pills that he was taking every day, and one of these pills has like a chemical or something that's really toxic towards human beings, and fucking Hitler was popping them like 3 or 4 at a time with every meal. And he also had a terrible diet. This guy ate fucking cakes and drank coffee, and that was basically his breakfast. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know. But it's a pitiful scene. Yeah, it's quite pitiful. The way that the pressure I do believe that he was aware of the folly of his actions before anybody else. Before anybody else realized, oh shit, we might lose this one. I think this guy was already like, fuck, we're done. Because the economy was not even going to be able to sustain this. Like, do you really, like, I think I've said this before already, but like, what sort of idiot thinks that you can take over a massive country like Russia, the Soviet Union, in one offensive? That's crazy. Mind you, if it was any other country that had to sustain the losses that the Soviet Union sustained on the eve of Operation Barbarossa, that country would have capitulated immediately, for sure. Because these motherfuckers were suffering massive losses in the encirclements in Kiev and a bunch of other ones and shit. Sustaining 500,000 losses. Who the fuck sustains that amount? 500,000 people. That's crazy, bro. Any other army would have been done, but Russia is special. That's why it's always a bad idea to invade a country like Russia, like especially if you don't have logistics for it. I feel like they were just set up to fail. Like I don't know how it's possible that you overlook this. Like people were voicing opposition, but they didn't care. Like how arrogant. Wow, that's crazy. That's really fucking crazy. Like, because if you look at it, they fucked themselves over from the beginning. They had to plunder, they had to rob, and just to sustain the economy. But the problem is that you're plundering. So now the countries that you just conquered are no longer gonna be are not gonna be profitable to you in the long run, because there's no industry, and who the fuck is gonna want to work for you? If you look at it, this sort of government doesn't work, especially in this era. You can't be an authoritarian regime like that. Like, you are going to get fucked later on, for sure. For sure. You know, especially if obviously the native population is completely hostile to you and you're committing massive genocide and reprisals. It's pretty cool how he actually does talk about the Soviet reprisals, because a lot of women do get raped on the way back, on like the Soviets march to Berlin. A lot of women, like there's a lot of atrocities, but it's reciprocated, you know what I'm saying, because the war in the East is savage, and I didn't know about the edict of the 5th of May, and how he's basically saying, like, when they first marched to Poland, he's like, oh yeah, don't worry about the Geneva Convention. You're not gonna have to worry about. You don't have to get. You are not going to be court-martialed for any atrocities you may commit on this campaign. And then when you go to the Soviet Union, it becomes more extreme. You know, you're able to execute partisans and Jews and members of the intelligentsia, members of the resistance. They would kill whole, like, it was crazy what the Germans were doing. So when the Soviets started coming back, that's why a lot of people were like fleeing west, surrendering to the Allies rather than fall prey to the Soviet Union, because they were coming in here hard. And then he does show a letter of this guy saying, like, oh, we're on the brink of taking Berlin. German mothers are going to regret the day that they gave birth to a son. And I'm like, what the It's crazy. But it's a great book. It's a fascinating subject for a man that is going to continue to be analyzed, because this man was a homeless artist living in Vienna before the outbreak of the First World War. And then after the First World War, he had no prospects. He came back to Munich. He tried to stay in the military for as long as possible so he can get, money, and so because he's able to sustain a living, because he had no prospects. Like, this guy had no prospects of world domination at all. And he somehow made it to be the Führer of the Third Reich and bring upon the absolute savagery that he brought upon in the 12 years of his of Nazi rule in Germany. And it's really cool how I'm still digesting a lot of this, so, as I speak, all this information. It's really good to even talk to yourself sometimes. I low-key do that, because when you start talking about it, it like forces your memory to like circulate, like, oh, okay, like, you know what I'm saying, like, yeah, it's like work, it's like a workout. But yeah, he also talks about the complicity of Germans in the eradication of the Jewish population as well. He does provide examples and stuff of people, because it's basically death by 1,000 cuts. Like, it first starts with segregation laws and stuff like that, and marriage laws and the civil laws, and the famous Nuremberg laws that prevented Germans from marrying Jews and stuff like that. But then they started getting deported. Started in 1939, 1940, to the general government in Poland under Hans Frank. But they started getting rumors about the death camps in Treblinka, and then you have Auschwitz later on in 1941, and the Austrian Jews get deported, and so there was rumors of people not making it back alive. And they never did anything. They never said anything. it's pretty intense, the shit that you read sometimes. Because, like, I'm used to it, but not used to it, you know. Because it's, wow. And I had the Himmler book. That shit made me fucking creep. Like, that shit did not help me sleep. The Nazis really were some really savage human beings, man. I just don't know how they thought they would be able to keep up with this method of government for very long. You know, especially in an industrialized age, the one that we live in, or that we lived in back then, obviously. Like, you can't take on the United States. And they declared war on the United States. Because of the tripartite agreement or the tripartite pact. But what the fuck are you doing declaring war on the United States, you idiots? Hitler, there's just so much shit to say about this guy, because it's crazy what these guys try to come up with. You know, you have the fight against Kursk, you have Operation Citadel, you have the siege of Stalingrad, you have the infamous decision in 1942 to be like, no, was it 1942 to be like, you know what? We're already spread thin. I'm gonna spread our forces even thinner by dividing this army into two, and then one is gonna go to Stalingrad, and one is gonna try to take the oil fields in the Caucasus. That didn't work out so well. And that was basically it. Like, it was basically over, but that was the nail on the coffin. That was literally the last chance that the Nazis had the manpower resources necessary in order to conduct a major offensive like that. Like, they were done. That's it. Like, you ran out. That was your last bullet, and from now on they were basically on the defensive, even though they were basically already are. Is that Hitler was decreeing these fucking fortresses where you were not allowed to retreat under any circumstances, which were obviously boneheaded, stupid plays. Instead of strategically, retreating, no, you're losing men and materials, things that you cannot afford to lose. But yeah, man, Nazi Germany it's going to be a subject that will be researched to a bloody pulp to the end of days, man. There's just so much to talk about Nazi Germany in 12 years, how they did so much, you know. It's crazy. And I liked how he also talked about Italy, like, not in too great detail, but he did talk about it a little bit, you know. You know, how they were economically fucked right from the very beginning. Like, Italy was actually trying to get Nazi Germany to be like, yo, chill, like, let's do this later. We're not ready yet. But Hitler didn't give a fuck. Yeah, man. I'm gonna probably have to take another day or two to fully process it, because it's really a lot. But it's a great book. Y'all should definitely check it out. Descent from Volker, Volker, ulrich, ulrich. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, but it is what it is. So, as my cozy thoughts, it's a really, like I said, it's a great book. It talks, it talks about the quadramative between Speer and Himmler and Goebbels and Bormann towards the end, in order to grab as much manpower resources necessary that's left. You know, that's when they really enact the whole total war. You know, because they really try to hold it off as much as they could, because a lot of the fear was that if they go to a total war economy in the very beginning, they are going to basically present the same circumstances that led to the stab at the back theory, which led to the downfall of Germany in the First World War, which was the civilian population was no longer backing the war effort, and because of the strain on the economy, you know, the whole famous bread lines and people having to wait forever just to get rations and stuff like that. So that's what basically they were trying to hold off in Nazi Germany for as long as possible. But they weren't successful, obviously. It became quite detrimental to the civilian population quite quickly. They just don't have the materials. And you plundering is not going to help anything. So that's that. It's so much. There's so much, dude. Like I'm so sorry that I sound so incoherent right now. Like I just finished the book this morning, so my apologies. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm still digesting as much as I possibly. It's a lot to take in. It's a pretty heavy subject. So hope you all have a great day. Have a great weekend. Don't pussy out at the gym. Go to the gym. Get big. All right, guys. Love y'all. Peace.